Good morning and welcome, Patriot News Hour. Joe and Jason. It is Friday. Yeah, sit back, relax, strap on that seatbelt, leave the driving to us. It is going to be another scorcher here in the Valley of the Sun, but have no fear. I will be out on the golf course this afternoon, and I hope nobody else is. That's my goal. Summertime. This is my time. Prices are cheap. Of course, it's like double what it used to be from just 3 or 4 years. Kind of like I think that's a good analogy, really. Just double the price of everything. That's kind of where we are. Over the last 4 or 5 years, everything has doubled. But don't tell the Fed that that's the case, because I'll tell you that's not true. Speaking of not true, wow, what a jobs number today. We will get into that in just a moment. But our toll-free number, 800-951-0592, the website at allamericangold.com. And just like pretty much all the markets, volatility is where it is at. We've got a big down day in gold and silver. And I'm telling you right now, buy everything you can. The kitchen sink, the bathtub, heck, throw the lawnmower in there. Take advantage of the pullback, because I'm going to tell you right now, we got a great show lined up for you. It is very, I think, appropriate, though, when all week, all the data, oh, man, ugly, right? Slow, layoffs, worried about bankruptcies and all of these other things. So warnings about get ready, because the new debt wave is going to occur. And then yesterday, remember gold and silver up big yesterday? Well, Moody's, they're one of the 3 big rating agencies out there. They've decided that, you know what? We're going to have to start downgrading these regional banks. Now, these regional banks, this puts them in the category of, hey, I'm not too big to fail, right? I'm not one of the big 10 banks. But we're the other banks that we realized after Silicon Valley and Signature went under, yeah, you know what? We're probably too big to fail too, so there's going to, we're going to have some plans in place. They didn't downgrade one of them. No. And actually, to be fair, they didn't downgrade them yet. What they said was, we're putting you on review. So think about this. You ever remember back in school? I don't even know if they do this anymore, where they would, halfway through the semester, if you're doing bad, the teacher would send home like a progress report to let your parents know, hey, Mom and Dad, Joe's not doing so good here. And he's only got 6 weeks to turn this ship around. Right? Otherwise, when his report card comes, it's not going to be good, right? Well, that's what Moody's did yesterday. They sent one of those little progress reports home. And it wasn't one regional bank. It wasn't 2 regional banks. It wasn't 3 regional banks. It was 6 regional banks. And I'm just sitting there going, okay. Right? Boy, that move in gold and silver sure made a lot of sense yesterday. But then today we get this payroll number that it's hilarious because no one knows what to do. 272,000 jobs created. But were they? I'll tell you on the next segment if there was or not, because you know what? I'll be honest with you. I don't know. I really don't know. But here was the worst one. That wasn't even the bad part. Inside of it, wage growth. Now, remember, ADP said, if you left your job, you got 7.8%, and if you stayed in your job, you got 5%, and they thought that was great news. Well, apparently the government said, Jason, wages are red hot again. So what do you do? What do you think? It really is a tale of chaos, and we're all waiting for, what is it really going to be? Is it going to be the crash, right? Is it going to be stagflation, which the jobs number says it is? Nobody really knows, and from day to day, week to week, you can have huge swings all over the board. Uh-oh, I can't hear Jason. I don't know if are you on, off? No. Someone's got to turn Jason on up at the studios there. This is what happened, though. Jack's on vacation, so we may not have Jason here for a minute. Oh, there you go. You're on now.
There we go. It was on my side.
It was you. All right. Hey, you know what? Even Jason and I, we've been doing this a long time, and we still got to get retrained. When we come back, though, we're going to tell you what banks are in trouble. We're going to talk about these jobs. And, of course, the biggest thing, everything's on sale today. 800-951-0592. Joe and Jason on this Friday. Chaos everywhere. Right now, the Dow is mixed. The stock market's mixed. The Dow's up 50. The S&P's lower. The NASDAQ is lower. The 10-year note, this thing, it's just crazy, the movement here on the 10-year note. So remember yesterday, we were in the 4.2s. 4.43 on the 10-year note after the blowout jobs number. Crude oil's higher. Gold's down 57, 23.13. Silver's down $1.60. By the way, we're going to heat this thing up, so get ready. We'll at the start of the next segment, get ready. I'll give you the number, 800-951-0592. Like I said, the kitchen sink, the bathtub, the lawnmower, whatever you've got, I would go double barrel today because that's how hot we're going to make it. But silver, $29.60 right now on silver. And as we talked about, diversification is going to be the key here. Especially, listen, I know the Moody's thing's not even going to make the news now because everyone's going to talk about this job stuff. This whole thing is coming here. Make sure you're more diversified this time than you were during the financial crisis, than you were during the dot-com bubbles. Be more diversified. Check. If you got $50,000 or more, check out our friends at Y Refi. Here's the great thing. All of you got this money sitting in these IRAs and stuff like that. You can use that with Y Refi. Be smart here. Do what you need to do to protect everything you've worked so hard for. Up to 10.25% fixed rate of return, not correlated to Wall Street. InvestYRefi.com. That's the word invest, the letter Y, REFY.com. Or just call them. 888-YREFI24. Now, Jason, you know what? I don't know what to do first, so I'm going to do the jobs number first. And then we'll get to the banks. So this is insanity at its finest. So the number comes out, okay, for the jobs report. 272,000 jobs created. I mean, unbelievable number, right? Nobody, even the highest estimates, nobody had anything close to this. By and large, everybody was, with a few exceptions, between like 100 and say 195,000. That's kind of where everybody was. So this was a huge beat. They only took off 15,000 jobs from the last 2 months, which is, they're always overly high, but not that bad. But here's what gets weird about it. Monthly earnings doubled the expectations. So they are saying monthly earnings came in red hot. In other words, hey, employers are having to pay people more money. Really bad for the inflation. Now, it's the opposite of what we've been hearing, but yet, okay, this is what they said. But that wasn't even the weirdest part. The unemployment rate went up. How does it go? Wait, you created almost 300,000 jobs, but the unemployment rate went up. The unemployment rate went to 4%, and they said because the labor force participation rate fell to the lowest over a year and a half. Right? In other words, in this part I believe, there's people that are giving up trying to find jobs. The household survey, because you got to remember now, you have the Bureau of Labor Statistics. They gave us this 272,000 number. And they also gave us the wage number. The household survey, that's where the unemployment number comes from. They said that we lost 408,000 jobs. So I'm like, wait a minute. One report, one government agency says we created 272,000. Another one says we lost 408,000. I mean, that's 700,000 job difference in a single month, Jason, right? It's like, what number do you believe, right? We just don't know.
Well, I still think there's a lot of people losing jobs that have multiple jobs, which kind of skews some of this information. When McDonald's laid off a whole bunch of people in California, if you lost your McDonald's job, but you still have your Pizza Hut job, then you didn't really become unemployed. You just lost a job, right, Joe? So I think a lot of people are shedding the number of jobs they have.
Here's what's interesting, because we haven't talked about this in a while. That 272,000 jobs that they said were created. The Bureau of Labor Statistics did admit that of that 272,000, 231,000 of that number was what they called a birth-death model adjustment. What does that mean? Birth-death. Right? We haven't talked about birth-death. This was big right before the crash during the financial crisis. Very similar with these crazy birth-death models. This means the government is saying, hey, we can't prove it. Can't prove it. But we think there was 231 jobs created, but we just don't know it, right? So this is the birth-death model, as they like to call it, right? In other words, somebody rode off into the sunset and somebody else took their job, but we can't prove it, but we're going to count that as a job added. 231,000. Without that, the number would have been 41,000, right? So, Jason, this whole thing, very weird. In addition to this, the household survey said we lost 625,000 full-time jobs. Now, I can't believe that number either. In a month, we lost 625,000 full-time jobs, and yet the jobless claims numbers are like we didn't even get to 230. But they did say we did add almost 300,000 part-time jobs. So, again, this is why I'm telling you, kitchen sink this thing today. We've got great specials coming up. I don't know. Jason, I'll tell you right now, I have no idea what to tell people. Is the economy roaring or is it collapsing? I just don't know. This was the greatest jobs report in the history of jobs report because it gave you whatever you want to believe. It's in this report. If you want to believe the economy's booming and inflation's roaring, it's in there. If you want to believe the economy's getting ready to crash and we're getting ready to go into a recession, it's in there, right? You got both today.
Well, then the question is brought up. What does it mean then, Joe? What will happen because of this, right?
Right. I don't know. That's the thing. I don't know. You guess. Your guess is as good as mine, right? It was absolutely. Well, you know what? I guess this is what happens, right? This is how out of control the government really is. They have two reports, and they essentially said the exact opposite thing. They're both around jobs, and yet one group said we lost 400,000 jobs. Another one said we got almost 300,000 jobs. I mean, I don't know. And by the way, here's a birth-death model that we took the number and then we threw 230,000 on top of it just because.
Well, and I guess maybe, and I don't know how much you can get the source, but I guess the source of the numbers, Joe, I mean, 400,000 job losses, where do they come from? What do they say the source of these job losses come from, Joe? And can that be verified? You know, because here's the thing about numbers is you can throw numbers around all day long, and if they're not real numbers, then you're just crafting a story that's just BS.
Right. Yeah, I don't know. I give up. I do. I give up on this whole jobs thing. Here's what I love. I'll be honest with you, because I wouldn't have been shocked today if it was the other way around. Gold was up 60. Silver was up $2. I wouldn't have been shocked at all. I'm glad it's down here because, guess what? We're going to be able to get more gold and silver put away. But let's quickly go back to Moody's. 6 regional banks on review for downgrade due to substantial exposure to commercial real estate loans. The long-term rating of First Merchants, FNB, Fullerton Financial, Old National Bank Corp, PPAC Gladstone Financial, and WaFd are all on the list. And these are banks that have market caps in the billions of dollars. You know, anywhere, 3 billion, 5 billion, 10 billion. That's just the market cap. But when you start to look at the size and scope of these that are getting ready to be downgraded here, Jason, it's a big number because of how many. It's an even bigger number because when you add these banks up together, right, all of a sudden you've got a situation. This is bigger than Silicon Valley if all of these go under. This is bigger than Signature if all of these goes under. And the problem is, if these guys go under, how many of the little banks are going to suffer the same consequence? And this has got, I think we're going to start seeing a slew of downgrades coming out of the rating agencies. We remember the FDIC already said our problem bank list shot up. We're going to get another problem bank list here, in another 2 months or so. I think you're going to see it shoot up again. These banks say they have substantial concentration in that commercial real estate. They've got asset quality and profitability pressure with higher for longer interest rates, raising long-standing risk, especially during a cycle downturn, and Moody's is now saying, Jason, get ready, right? And then we've been talking about this. We know there's going to be a lot more bank failures, kind of a shocking amount of banks, especially these size banks, right? These aren't the tiny banks. This isn't, hey, I'm like New York Bank Corp, where I've got some branches and it's all just right here in New York City. We're not that big. These are much bigger than those.
It was the Fed that admitted in a report after quarter 3 of 2022 that there were 1,200 banks that were in trouble. 1,200. Now, of course, they could play all their games and shore up some of that stuff, I guess. It's been running up towards 2 years since that happened, but they identified 1,200 banks in trouble. And I don't see how 1,200 banks could have fixed things in the last 2 years, Joe. So it could be much, much, much more banks, counting the small banks, than we'd realize.
Yeah, the downgrades have started. Well, the review for downgrades has started again. Patriot Radio News Hour, big specials coming up next. 800-951-0592. Joe and Jason, Patriot Radio News Hour, wrapping up the week here on this Friday. We're essentially like back to Monday with these crazy moves. This jobs report that I don't know what we'll see what happens, I guess, and then the downgrades of banks. That's really the story that will be lost today, but not here at Patriot. We follow the news, so you don't have to. So I've got a bunch of different items here for those of you that I want to make a big play in the market today. $20 gold pieces, $2,450. So back to where we were the other day. Take advantage here. You're buying so close to spot here. You're talking, 130, 140, depending on where, gold's going to shake out today. Who knows? Maybe 120 before it's done. But super tight spreads here. Huge opportunity there. $5 Indians. You guys know this. This is my favorite coin. It's the best coin the government ever made, in my opinion. Also had the most limited mintage, right? Because remember that this was a quarter-ounce coin that went with the St. Gaudens. It had that infused design they carved into the coin. When the original COVID, the plague came out, 1916, they thought the coins carried the plague because of the grooves that were in it. So they just stopped minting them. I think they were only minted for like 10 years total. $660. That's $10 less than what you can buy a $5 Liberty for. That's great value. On the silver side, this is where it really gets big here. Rolls of silver eagles all the way down to $740. I mean, you're talking, yesterday we were at $775 yesterday. I mean, it's $35 a roll less today, $740. If you buy a case, save another $5, $735. It'll be $18,375. That number again, 800-951-0592. And Jason, we've called this the year of chaos. We know volatility is going to be out there, but I always like buying dips, but this one I really like because this number's kind of, right, looks like a lot of BS from the Bureau of Labor Statistics.
Yeah, this thing could bounce right back on Monday, and if anything, this week has proved that it can go up and down dramatically.
Right.
But I like the range. I mean, gold is staying in the 2,300 range. It goes down really far, but again, it builds back up. It's consolidating. There's still a lot of sellers going on, and sellers will stop. And if the buying is keeping up with it, these prices will continue to rise. And silver, the same thing. Silver just got below 30 again, but it's like in this $29, $30, $31 range. So. It's begging to be bought before the next leg up. There will be another leg up. It'll be this year. I think it happens later this month, but we'll see.
Well, it's going to be very interesting, right? Because yesterday you had people talking about we're going to have a rate cut in July, right? And I'm like, whoa, calm down, right? Settle down here. Of course, now this number today, right, I guess pushes it back to September. But I think the warning from Moody's, which is going to get ignored, it came out yesterday after the bell, and this is kind of what we're seeing as the problems persist. And Moody's was talking about it. Hey, the interest rates are too high. They're not going to be able to salvage these loans, and they've got too much exposure, and nobody will buy it. I think, Jason, that's probably the biggest problem these banks have. Nobody's going to buy this stuff. And so we're going to see it happening, and I'm going to stick with it. We're going to get a rate cut in September no matter what happens. That's just what I think. I don't care if inflation gets better. I don't care if it gets worse. The simple fact of the matter is, with the amount of debt the government has to sell on top of all these troubled banks, the Fed is going to be forced to do it one way or the other.
And September just seems like a long ways away, right? Doesn't it, Joe? It feels like a year away from where we're at. The way things have been moving. So a lot can happen between now and September. And who knows? Maybe we'll see if things get, the news gets really bad. Maybe they'll do a whole half-point cut. Really make the markets happy, Joe. We'll see.
Yeah, somebody was talking about that yesterday, saying, hey, we could see a 50 basis point rate cut. I don't see that. Now, I did say there'd be 2 rate cuts this year, right? And I think there will be. There's going to be 2 of them. The problem is they hate cutting rates right near the election, but they may be forced to. We're going to have to see what happens here. I'm going to be very interested to see how many more downgrades or reviews to downgrade come out in the next couple of weeks, because this was Moody's today. And you got to remember, these rating agencies, they don't all have the same banks on their list. So the problem here is when Fitch and S&P come out, they'll have banks that Moody's doesn't have, right? Because Moody's they don't rate all the banks. Right? They just rate some of the banks. And Fitch rates some. S&P rates some. There is some crossover, right? So some of these banks may appear on all 3. But, Jason, by the time we're done here, we could see the majority of these regional banks be on the review for downgrade list.
Yeah, well, and we saw how quickly a couple of those banks dropped in 2023. So they could go from not being reported in the news at all to being dead in the water in less than a week. Joe, I like how fast they collapsed. Remember how you go back to 2023. How oh, look, this bank's having trouble, and then Friday they couldn't even keep their doors open. Yeah, it can happen very fast, dramatically.
And the problem is, any of their big depositors tucks tails and run. Then all of a sudden it's a problem. And that's really the bigger issue for these banks, is they're unlike J.P. Morgan, U.S. Bank, Bank of America, there's nowhere for those big depositors to go from there, right? So they're not going to leave. They're going to stay at those big banks. These smaller banks, if they tuck tail and run and go to the big banks, right, all of a sudden, like Jason said, they get downgraded today, and next thing you know, 2 days later, their doors are closed. Well, because 3 big depositors left. We'll be back after the break. 800-951-0592. Big down day and back the truck up here. $20 gold pieces, $2,450. $5 Indians, $660. That's $10 less than a $5 Liberty. So you've got all pre-33 private gold. You got the 1 ounce, $24.50. Quarter ounce Indian, $660. Silver, love it here. Big down day here in silver. Rolls of Silver Eagles, $740, $35 less than yesterday. Cases, save another $5, $18,375. I mean, what were we like? A week and a half ago, cases of Silver Eagles were $2,000, maybe even I think it was $20,500. Right? Rolls of Silver Eagles were over $800. This is just a great opportunity to add here today. 800-951-0592. If you're brand new, just tell the girls, hey, I want the special. Of course, today, tell them which ones you want. Hey, maybe you want some of all of them. But either way, take advantage. Not only are we facing this commercial real estate problem, yesterday the Federal Reserve Bank of Minneapolis, that's the home of Neil Kashkari, they were talking about credit card delinquencies. Now, this has primarily been, right, the people at the lower end, right, the lower credit score people. They've been having a problem. Apparently, this problem has now increased beyond that. Delinquencies have risen essentially, almost every quarter now. Rose 11% from the second quarter of 2021 to where we sit today. Every region in America, delinquency rates have increased, and they're saying now the richest 10% of zip codes are now seeing the greatest proportion of increase in delinquency rates, climbing 4.8% from 4.8% to 7.4% in the first quarter of 2024 from the second quarter of 2022, Jason. So in less than 2 years, a 54% increase in delinquency rates in the richest 10% of zip codes in America.
Yeah, that's a really bad fact. I mean, we already know that people, the lower income people, they're the ones that shoulder the weight of these market downturns. But when you have people that are supposed to be able to pay their bills and grow their family's wealth, and they're not paying the bills, this is what we've been talking about for a long time about the middle class disappearing. And that $1 million, who's it? Was it Grant? He was saying that the middle class is $1 million. Cardone.
Yeah,
Grant Cardone. If that's what the middle class is, there's not going to be a lot of middle class. I mean, I know that there's a lot more millionaires as far as whether it's assets or holdings, but that's what I've been talking about when this monetary reset happens. There's going to be an evisceration of whatever middle class is supposed to be. And if you're not holding assets, you're not going to be making it through. You're going to be working class or lower class. That's all there is to it. I mean, I think what some people think is middle class, Joe, is working class. Working class is you work to make your living. And then that's what a SURF does. That's it's not the worst thing in the world, but it's not middle class has retirement. Middle class has assets. Middle class has built something so that they have a more comfortable living. And what you just reported, Joe, sounds like that's going away.
Yeah, this is something we don't want to see, and probably has a lot to do with the downgrades of these banks with Moody's as well, because if all of a sudden the wealthiest zip codes are having trouble, that's a bigger burden, because these guys, listen, they don't have like a $500 credit limit or a $1,000 credit limit. You're in the richest zip codes. Most likely, you either have no limits or it's $20,000, $10,000, $20,000, $30,000 type lines here. So the write-offs can be quite big, and it's something to watch out for. I just wanted to point that out because that's a change, right? Because we've been focusing on subprime. Now credit card delinquencies have spread into prime. But on top of that, Jason, one other thing we need to point out today. When it comes to global reserves, so when we talk about global reserves, they don't like to put gold in there. Now, we know all these central banks are buying gold. But something very interesting, and I got to give credit here because I didn't do this work, and the guys over at Gainesville did this. Do you know now the world central banks are holding more gold than they do than any other currency outside of the dollar? They're holding more gold than euros, more gold than renminbi. Now, gold is now the second largest holdings of central banks globally. It's just crazy to think about how that has changed just in the last 20 years. Final segment coming up. What do we like to say? Buy the dips from the dips. $20 gold pieces today, $2,450. Tell you what, you buy 20 or more, $24.35. How's that? $24.35 if you buy 20 or more on those Liberties. $10 Indians, $660. Tell you what, 20 or more, $650. How's that? 20 or more, $650. Rolls of U.S. Silver Eagles, $740. You buy 25 rolls or more, we take another $5 off. Cases at $18,375 at 800-951-0592. And Jason, what a crazy week. And guess what? It's going to get crazier because Roaring Kitty, he's going to have a live stream. So GameStop came out. By the way, GameStop had horrible earnings, but Roaring Kitty, I'm sure he's gonna set the world on fire apparently today. So everybody get ready to see what Roaring Kitty has to say today.
Yeah, I heard there's more stocks available to buy, and so the price came down this morning, and I guess we'll see, right? Well, we'll see how. I look at GameStop stock as the same as cryptocurrencies. As long as people are buying it, it'll go up, right, Joe? And that's what's going on here. And then there's shorts against it, so this guy's got a game to play. And from what we were hearing yesterday, we were talking about this on the Half Empty Cup of Joe. It's, there might not be anywhere for the shorts to go. These guys who hold the shorts might be in big trouble.
Well, today the earnings were bad. GameStop says, hey, we're going to sell 75 million more shares, right? Why not, right? Hey, we're going broke. We'll just sell some more shares. So we'll see. We'll see what happens. This is why I tell you, remember, we said it on the Half Empty Cup of Joe. They'll always change the rules, right? Roaring Kitty had them all in their sights, and now GameStop, magically, hey, we're going to sell 75 million more shares. So, see, there'll be plenty of shares out there for everybody. There you go. So, by the way, GameStop down 30% today.
Well,
Wow.
I guess we'll see what happens on Monday with that as well. Is that a dip to buy? I don't know, Joe. I stay away from that stuff.
I don't know. I have no idea. Well, I guess we'll have to wait to see what Roaring Kitty has to say, if whether or not it's a buy or not today. I guess that all remains to be seen. But it really is what a crazy week. We had all this bad news all week, and then today this jobs number that, well, depending on which one you believe, one said it was terrible. The other said, man, this economy is rocking and rolling, and we're just getting ready to really pick up steam, and inflation's going to come roaring back. At the same time, by the way, Zachary Liquefaction, they're a pretty big outfit. They're going to lay off 4,430 workers in East Texas and immediately see bankruptcy protection. John Deere today. So John Deere's been laying people off pretty much all year long, announced more layoffs are coming. And oh, by the way, we're moving more production to Mexico. So there you go. Yep. You're fired, and we're going to Mexico. 800-951-0592. Load it up on a Friday. God bless everybody. Listen, Jason and I, though, we're coming back with the half-empty cup. Stay with us.